Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. This time we're wrapping up our Georgia hunt, and boy, do we have some stories for you guys. Shane, how you doing, man?
Oh, in recovery mode. Early recovery mode.
Man, we got some stories. We got Texas in the house. Seth, what's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to be here. So Seth, you came down to film this hunt, which we appreciate. You did a freaking great job, and the stuff that you guys went through to get some good footage, man, we got some stuff to talk about. Jacob, how are you?
Doing well. Doing
recovery mode.
Yeah, I'm still like I feel like I'm in a fog a little bit, but maybe it's because it's all the fog up here on the mountain. So
yeah.
So we got Seth Johnson on the podcast along with Shane Parker. Also got Nate Gregg over here just chilling as well. It's been an interesting hunt. So we got again a lot to talk about. Me and Nate had a big buck encounter. Pretty freaking awesome buck. And then I think there's a lot of lessons learned from all of us on this trip. But Shane, I want to kind of pitch it over to you real quick. From our first podcast we did, after kind of doing our first day of scouting and all that kind of stuff, and kind of what we assume potential patterns are going to be, how did it kind of play out versus what you were thinking originally when we got here up on Wednesday?
Well, I mean, I guess I thought originally that the hunting pressure would maybe change the way the deer were moving, but it really didn't at all. Like that was something I thought maybe would kick off, you could predict movement a little bit better with that, and maybe wind would generate movement, wind switches and things like that. This time of year, it's just not. So, yeah, I just really realized that early season hunting is just all about little small movements and just trying to predict them.
And when you mean by like hunting pressure, like making potential movement maybe more predictable, is bucks actually using wind to their advantage for traveling and all that kind of stuff. And right now it seems like they don't care a whole bunch.
Yeah, they just don't care.
Even with the hunting pressure.
Even with the hunting pressure, it's just not time yet. Mm-hmm. That's my initial impression after coming up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing about this place that we were all talking about is it's pretty high deer density, and one thing we talked about on Monday's episode, which if you haven't listened to Monday's episode, go back and listen to that one to kind of get the context, because we recorded that the first night we were here going into this, and now this is kind of like the color commentary afterwards, I guess. And one thing that I struggle with in a place like this, and I basically walked right into this week, is when you find this much deer sign compared to what I'm used to, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good, and you keep going thinking you're going to find something better, but it kind of all looks the same. Like me and you, Shane, were talking about it yesterday. Like you find really good deer sign, and you just keep going, and you keep finding really good deer sign, and it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, is this actually mediocre for this place, or is it actually good? You know, and I feel like at least me, I just kind of walk myself in circles. I mean, I probably walked past so many spots where I could have killed something and just didn't get up a tree because I kept wanting to find more, I guess, or there was nothing that really distinguished what I was finding from another spot. Just heavy beat down trails coming out of the mountains, intersecting another trail, and you walk over to the next ridge point and it's exactly the same, and then you go to the next ridge point and it's exactly the same. And it's like, well, how do I pick between all these spots? And then you wind up like me the other day, and you don't pick one. You just walk until dark.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're scouting, looking for an aha moment, and there's no aha moments. They're all aha moments. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. Yeah. Like when we finally picked that first place on Thursday and went back to it that afternoon, it was like that was kind of an aha. Like, well, this is good enough to sit on, and I passed so much of that. That I should have just sat on, Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking there's no way they're going to be doing this because they got to have pressure on them, so they got to be not using that. And so we passed up places to hunt because we thought pressure will change that,
And, speaking with pressure, I think one thing we realized there's a lot. First off, there's a lot of bow hunters up here.
A lot.
Bunch of bow hunters.
Way more than I would ever see in Alabama, most of the public land that we hunt.
Yeah.
Maybe like opening weekend, you've got about this many trucks, but like after that, when we start getting the second, third week of bow season, it's kind of hit or miss, especially during the week. There was quite a bit of pressure during the week here.
Yeah. Wednesday when we rolled up, when there was cars everywhere, it's like, oh, this is this is for real. Yeah.
But
these people around here are mad at him.
Yeah.
But which is it's very interesting. I mean, I think that just some I don't know why the difference is between like what we see in Alabama versus like what these Georgia hunters are doing, because they're all residents.
Yeah.
But and there's some diehard guys. I mean, there's this guy over here, not terribly far from us, who's been at that spot every single day, morning and evening since we've been here.
Yep.
And it's just to me that's fascinating, just seeing like that kind of pressure this early in the season. But like what you're saying, Shane, it's like thinking about if these deer were reacting to this pressure. Especially like, any guys that are hunting down the bottoms, pushing deer higher in elevation, any guys hunting the top, pushing the deer off to the sides and off into the steep stuff. When you get into that really nasty stuff, other than like maybe one area y'all went to, which I'm probably maybe we'll go back to tonight, which is going to be some cool footage, sitting on the ground in this kind of like these rock shelves kind of go up this mountain. It's like they're not where you would expect them to be if this was like, to me, the deer are in completely different areas compared to like how I thought this would be, especially if we were here like mid to late October.
Yeah.
Mid to late October, it's like I think they're going to be in some of the areas that we've been trying to hunt. Mm-hmm. But like right now, they're not there, at least not in numbers enough that you can actually pinpoint them. And it's like when me and Seth hunted last night, going to a spot very close to where Andrew was at and where Andrew's been at last, I guess he's sat there twice now.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot, there's more buck sign there than some of those other areas that look a lot better. But for whatever reason, those bucks are on that ridge system more so than some of these more isolated, harder to get to spots.
Yeah. Last night I was thinking about it. I really think we're catching them in the transition. Mm-hmm. We hunted probably this week, next week. If you were here, you're catching them in that summer to pre-rut transition where they're just moving somewhere. That they're going somewhere that they want to be eventually, but not right now. So it's just like you're getting like little, well, he was here or they were walking through here, but that's it, And unless they're like a feed tree, like but that they were coming to, you're just catching a transition,
And speak about feed trees. So there's a lot of different things I want to kind of cover in this episode, but one thing that I personally realized on this trip is the mountain oaks, these mountain chestnut oaks, which we have back in Alabama, typically you don't ever see deer eat them. At least in my experience, I've talked to very few guys that's actually seen deer eat mountain chestnuts. One of the only guys I know that has seen it and actually killed bucks off mountain chestnuts or mountain oaks is Justin Houston, okay? Mm-hmm. And he killed a really nice buck. It was last year, maybe 2 years ago, in some really steep stuff in Alabama on some public land, where he had found a pattern, seen bucks, like a bachelor group, eating mountain chestnuts very early in bow season. And he was able to capitalize on it. And I think one thing that we realize here is because some of these white oaks still are not dropping. It seems like a lot of these white oaks actually produce really, really well.
Yeah.
And Shane, you and Seth have been hunting quite a bit together this week and have found where white oaks started to drop and where there's some sign at.
Yeah.
But it's still so sporadic, and it's not like they're dropping super great. That maybe it's not like this is a super high focal area for deer travel. But when we got in certain spots, we were finding crazy feed sign on mountain oaks, and it's like these mountain oaks are raining. Like where me and Seth went last night, you need a hard hat in there.
Yeah.
I mean, where me and Nate went a couple days ago, and it's like when you're in there, you need a hard hat because it is possibly dangerous. I mean, you're gonna get smacked in the head.
Yeah.
There was one time when me and Seth were picking the tree to get up in. I hear one fall, hit the ground. It sounded weird. I look at Seth, and he's like covering his head up, and I was like, "Did it just
I was
dome
not
you?"
hanging out under that tree any longer than I had to.
Yeah. And that was a
Them
spot.
things were thumping,
Dude. And those areas had big buck sign. We found some when me and Nate went in there, some like a very, very large rub, or actually a couple rubs on mountain laurel, where like I've never seen a buck rub mountain laurel like that ever. Where he had rubbed it enough, and it was probably about 1.5 inches in diameter at the base of what he was rubbing. And mountain laurel is a very, very hard plant. Like it's one of those things that like you can't. It's hard to bend and break it, especially if it's bigger than like maybe like one of your index, like maybe like your index finger. And he had snapped one of those and split it in two, shredded it, and then shredded another one next to it with tine marks that were almost like sternum high on me. And I'm like, that is super impressive, and it was right next to some really hot feed sign. And then, some of these areas that we've gone into, like where Andrew was at on the same ridge system on this part of this mountain, had found, I think, a total of 4 scrapes maybe in there.
Mm-hmm.
Three of them were fresh, or like
fresh.
They had just pawed it in the last day or so when we were in there. And then when me and Seth were walking a little bit further in, past some of those scrapes, found some more really fresh, really impressive rubs.
Yeah.
And it's like one thing we're realizing, because we're seeing some deer and seeing some bucks. Some of them are still in velvet. Some of them are hardhorn. Like the big buck that me and Nate saw was hardhorn, chocolate rack. I don't know how long he's been hardhorn, but it didn't look like he had a lick of velvet hanging off him. And then you'll see some other deer, and it's like they're still completely in velvet, which is just fascinating to kind of see that difference between all these deer.
I think until you get them all hardhorned, that really good series of rubs that'll lead you somewhere or lead you to a bedding spot or something like that.
Yeah,
that's going to be hard to find. Until they all get that away. That way, all of them's testosterone is rising. So even the ones that have been out of velvet for 2 weeks, their testosterone is being forced up by the other deer that are now coming in. Losing their velvet. It's like a competition thing. And their bodies sense that. Their physiological bodies, sense that. Change, especially as you get the photo period days start shortening. So I think that's something.
One thing I want to say about that ridge that we found all the buck sign on is I was not the main subject of this video that we're filming this week. It was Jacob and Shane, so I was trying to not interject my opinion too much. But now we're doing the podcast, so I get to interject my opinion on what Jacob did wrong. So that ridge system over there, Shane, me and you had talked about it before we came up here, and it's not part of the big mountains. So there's big mountains all around here. This is a lower ridge system beneath all the mountains. It's maybe half as high as all these mountains around here, and it sets up as like a topo hub. And for the audio listeners, if you take your hand and you look at your hand, the palm of your hand would be the center of that topo hub, and your fingers coming off would be the finger ridges. And basically, we hunted between your pointer finger and middle finger. So where that would be the drainage in between, and we hunted at the head of that. So we hunted in between your pointer and your middle finger, facing towards the palm of your hand. So that's how that ridgetop hub set up. And there was a lot of feed sign in there. They were eating on the mountain oaks. There were scrapes in there, and we only hunted it twice. I sat with Jacob and filmed him the first night. We saw a couple deer. And then I hunted it by myself yesterday, saw a couple deer, ended up seeing a doe and fawn come by, and the fawn was just too small, so I was like, man, I can't shoot this doe. And then a velvet spike came up, and buddy, I was tempted. I'm not too good to shoot a spike, man. So I was kind of tempted. If he gave me a real easy shot, I was like, yeah, I'll wrap this trip up on you, buddy.
Yeah. Andrew could have killed his first velvet buck ever, and could have had his velvet spikes, treated and put on his keychain. And he just didn't do it. When you text me, I was telling Seth, I'm like, dude, let's see if he'll kill his first velvet buck. Let's just drag out this 85-pound
if he made it easy, if he came out at 12 yards on my strong side, I was going to shoot him for sure. Yeah. But anyway, that ridgetop hub, I think one thing that looking back, and I didn't hunt it yesterday or the day before yesterday because I thought Jacob was going to go hunt it. But I was like, man, the whole time I was like, God, that's the place. We should be in there because the sign is there. And even though there's a really high deer density here, that doesn't mean that the deer are everywhere all the time. Yeah. So in a place like that hub, I think that it's the right spot, and I just think you got to give it 3 or 4 days.
Oh yeah,
And you just and we hunted a different spot every single hunt basically this trip, and I think that really shot us in the foot because, that even with all the feed sign over there and all the good looking stuff. At the end of the day, you're giving it 3 hours in the afternoon. By the time we were getting out there and getting set up, you're hunting for basically 3 hours out of a 4.5 day hunt. And so I don't think that's really enough time. I think that if we'd have put more time in it, we definitely would have got a crack at a doe or something. But I think we would have got a crack at a buck because there's obviously one hanging out in there, but we just kept bouncing around looking for something else that
looking for something better
that we really didn't know what we were looking for.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, you come to a new place. That's one of the things I've learned. It's coming to a new place and not trying to see the entire place.
Yeah,
just stick to where you think is good and hunt it out.
Buckle
down on it. Yeah, instead of just trying to bounce around and see as much as you can see. Don't be a tourist.
Yeah. That's why too, man. It would be so helpful if like a week or two before this hunt, you could come up here and give it like 2 days of just good walking and kind of get that out of your system. Yeah. Because there is that adjustment period. And I think we might have talked about this on Monday where like that first 2 days of the hunt, you're just like kind of getting your bearings basically. I mean, you're driving around, you're trying to figure out what the access is like, you're trying to figure out what sign is good sign. And then you know, later in the hunt, hopefully you're kind of buckling down and hunting something. But man, we bounced around a lot, but we ended up finding good stuff. We just weren't able to capitalize on it. I mean, like, I want to get into some actual stories here because we got some dandies. But
before we do, I want to get Seth's take on this. So Seth, you're from East Texas, or from Texas. What is your thoughts now after hunting in the mountains, seeing Mountain Laurel for the first time? And all this kind of stuff. I mean, what is your take after kind of following Shane around?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was an absolute privilege to be able to spend some time with Shane. He's got a lot of experience, and this is all new for me. And appreciate you guys having me up here as well. It's been a really cool learning opportunity. Definitely different than anything I've ever seen or even traveled through, let alone tried to hunt and get on bucks successfully. But it's been a totally different experience. Shane showed me what Mountain Laurel looked like for the first time, and Jacob showed me what it felt like to get left behind in it. From a high level, Jacob, a couple of things that I figured out is just Jacob gets in the woods, he's moving. And if you get left behind, and also, in Texas, when you're walking through the woods, when you're pushing, you hold the branch for the guy behind you.
Oh, gosh.
And Jacob wants to take your eyeballs out.
Golly, Jacob, what are you doing, man?
Whiplash.
He came all the way out here to film us. You're whacking him with limbs, abandoning him in the dark in bear country.
I didn't realize he was that close.
I was telling you, man.
On the way out, I was sticking close because as soon as we got out of the tree, we got lost in 3 minutes.
Look,
and then we had to go straight up. We were just a little low. We had to go straight up the mountain
and crawling through Mountain Laurel. That sucked.
Dude. I had already tried to kill him the day before. Why did you have to do it again? I mean,
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, that's what I was telling one of y'all before this hunt. I was like, look, man, Jacob's a big old boy, but he'll eat a hill, man. Like he will walk you into the dirt.
Yeah. Oh, I've got.
I was gonna say
he took Nate on a death march.
Yeah, we don't have another mic for Nate, but like, dude, me and Nate went into a spot that sucked, man. Had to come right up a freaking face on one of those little mountains, and oh my god, that last couple 100 feet, 150 feet going up was just straight mountain Laurel, and it was steep as crap. It was like on a slope with shading on Onyx. It was like bright dark red on like each side of this little point, and it was like a lighter red going down. And dude, we walked up that, crawling through this Mountain Laurel, got to the top, and dude, I was like, I need 5 minutes. I gotta catch my breath. And Nate came up, and Nate had his. So Nate's actually hunting out of his turkey vest, which is pretty slick. So he's got all the stuff in there, and we didn't realize till we get back, dude. He had like. Because we didn't have like our gear with us, we just had our bow because we were just kind of scouting. Dude, he was carrying like extra cam buckles and stuff. Unless he had all this extra weight in his vest that he didn't realize he had. And we were just climbing mountains. It's like he's walking around with a weighted vest the whole time. I was like, oh, dude, that sucks.
That night when he came back in here and like you had left, I asked him what he thought, and I don't believe he cusses, but the way he looked at me, I believe he was cussing. Like there was legit like madness, on his face. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. So this is great, man. So it's kind of funny how this hunt went. It started real good on day 1 or 2, and then like crap hit the fan, bro.
Yeah, it literally did. Yeah, snakes hitting the wall. It's like, it's just, it was bad.
So how do we want to start with this? About how everybody's days went.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, something that I want to get out of it coming in is really starting to branch out and hunt out of state. Last year, first going to Kentucky, but it just went to film, didn't get a tag or anything, but just went there with a purpose to learn. Same as here, to learn how you guys break down ground that you're not familiar with, what it's like to go out of state, and actually watch people spend the time doing what they say they do, scouting, doing all the pre-scouting. I mean, we spent every morning, searching something, sometimes to a fault possibly, but just wanted to learn how to break down, especially in elevation like this, which is a lot different than what I'm used to, and just how you guys were going to go about breaking it down, and just try to learn as much as I could for when I go out in the future.
I will say this before we get into all these stories is I feel like we uncovered a ton of sign that you could hunt during the rut.
Oh my
Like
God.
I believe we know we could come back here in the rut and kill deer.
Yeah,
Like
kill some
pretty good
bucks.
because that's what we found, and that's like I think what we had in our mind when we picked all these spots out is like we almost had that mindset we're hunting like it's going to be the pre-rut and it's going to be the rut, and we went to those spots and found those signs, that old sign that would tell you come back here in a week before the rut,
Well, and the terrain sets up so well
Yeah.
for it. So, like, one of the spots that me and Nate went to was, like, the top of this thermal hub. And it was almost like a land bridge where, like, you had these 2 or 3 big secondary ridges that came to one spot. And it looked almost like a dam of a big lake that, like, connected them all together at the base of the mountain. And it was super, super steep. And, man, there was old rubs from last year on it. There was a good scrape on it. Really, I was expecting to find a trail camera. I don't think we ever saw a trail camera in that spot. But I'm like, dude, if you came back during the rut and could hunt, like, because you could sit there and potentially, like, look up higher up on that mountain, but you could sit and I would feel almost confident potentially even bow hunting that during the rut, like that terrain feature, because it was so tight of, like, if a buck was going to go past any of these ridge systems and catch, like, a rising thermal or even a falling thermal from deer bedded up high, he's going to cross right through that land bridge, that spot that connects all these ridges together, this little high spot, and yeah, there was so much stuff that we found, and really the spot that me and Seth sat last night, where me and Nate had scouted, I think would be a awesome rut spot where you get a couple different drainages come together at the base of the mountain, or like not the base of the mountain, but the top of the mountain, and you've got just all these different terrain features coming to one specific focal point. And it's like during the rut, that would be tremendous for any bucks cruising and he wants to catch like a rising thermal or even a falling thermal and working in those ditches. You could sit in that spot, especially if you had a muzzleloader or a rifle, and do pretty good. Or maybe even bow hunting in a spot like that, especially if they're a little more keen in. Yeah, close quarters, keen in. Because like if he comes around the side, that top of that mountain, not the very top, but that top third, he's going to swing right by that tree. So it's like, it's a great looking area. But again, like what we're finding is some of those bucks are like in those spots, but a lot of them are like lower in elevation, or they're in more gentle terrain for the most part compared to like what we originally come in. Like we came out here like, man, we're going to climb up on some of these big benches on some of these mountains and find bucks. And like Andrew went to some of those spots and there was a lack of bucks on, like a lack of whip rows. But the second you get to the little more gentle rolling like parts of these mountains, you'd find a lot more sign. Yeah. And it's like they're just not there quite yet.
Yeah, they're transitioning. Mm-hmm. Like I said, they'll be there, but it's just we're just a month or two, 45 days away,
Yeah. Or even, I think, we talked a little bit about this too. Like, I think even if you came out and bow hunted like mid-October, on a cold front that came through, I think you could have a tremendous hunt of just bucks up, checking scrapes, kind of covering, laying more of that sign down in some of these spots. And just as a bow hunting situation, could do pretty good. Yeah. But one thing we found is also in these areas is there's like pockets of white oaks. Okay, so it's not like you have like a whole mountainside necessarily full of white oaks. A lot of mountain oaks, but when those white oaks start dropping, it could be good, but it also could be bad because it seems like all these trees produce really well. So you could be kind of in the same situation we're in now, where there's feed sign everywhere, and you're just trying to find the best thing that has the buck sign, connected with it. Yeah. Which again, we found a little bit of, but it's like, another thing is the bedding situation right now. It seems like bedding, they're not necessarily bedding based off like what we've seen in highly strategic areas with like the hunting pressure in mind. Yeah, they're just kind of bedding in the first good spot, because we found some beds. Me and Nate found some beds. We jumped a big buck, which we're going to talk about in just a second, out of a bed 10 yards away from us. But it's like when that hunting pressure gets up, I think you could figure out a little bit more predictability on where those deer are going to be in pockets, and then actually kind of use that to your advantage.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that. I feel like we found, like I said, we found a lot of really good sign for the future, and we found a lot of good sign right now. But it's just like I said, it's just that transition right now. The white oaks aren't dropping well enough to really get deer moving around a lot. I think when you get a lot of white oaks dropping, what you get is a lot of deer coming into that area and just moving through. So it's a little more predictable. Like you can say, well, I got a group of white oaks here. I can hunt off of them because I know, with this high deer density, probably something, you're going to get 4 or 5 deer coming through, and hopefully one of them's a shooter. Something you could pop. But when it's like this, it's just it's tough.
Well, another thing that we talked about, Shane, was like props to guys who can actually be consistent in this kind of area or like this kind of like terrain
this time of year.
This time of year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like it's very, very challenging. It's a fun challenge, but it's very, very challenging in order to kind of put that pattern together. And I think definitely like using trail cameras could help out tremendously at this time of the year and trying to figure out like where. Like, first off, where are bucks located at, and how are they actually using it during the time of days that they can, and kind of keying off that. But, like, dude, it is a very, very interesting area with the terrain, the topography, the diversity of habitat, and also just how, like, the hunting pressure, I think, maybe affects us more than it's affecting the deer right now. Yeah. And you're kind of, like, putting everything together in order to try to figure out that success. Now, I do want to kind of get into, like, again, talking about some of these different hunts and these different spots that we've kind of set up on and what we've kind of learned. But based off, like, the sign that you guys have been finding, talking about with Seth and Shane, what, out of all the spots that you've sat, and again, y'all have had some encounters and stuff like that, what made some spots potentially better than others, as in, like how the topography, how the bedding, how like they were traveling through? Because y'all had some spots y'all set up, which we're going to get to with the Children of the Corn. But what was like some of these areas that y'all kind of found? Because some of the areas y'all were going in super far, some of it wasn't terribly far off the road, but it all had some sign that y'all were trying to key in on. Was there anything that kind of, looking back at it, if you would have spent more time there, potentially could have paid off better?
Yeah. I think that first spot we went to when we found it was basically fresh rubs. We were walking down the creek. As soon as we broke out of like where we had found some hunter pressure, which were right around the CRP fields, and got into the deeper CRP fields, we started hitting a rub line. Good rub line. We followed it for a while, and then it broke out into open timber, and it broke out into thick. So once we got through that open timber into that thick, we hit that rub line again, and it was really, really fresh. And so I think had we just – and we hunted there and seen deer. I think had we kept in that position, in that area, and just pushed a little more the next day, like instead of bouncing around like you're saying. But, yeah, in that area, it was just a sign like that rub going up the side of that hill – that we both sat there and we basically followed an old railroad bed into this really unique terrain feature, which I told him that's why I wanted to go in there, because that terrain feature just kind of, the size it is, cuts off a huge saddle. Like it just eliminates that travel from it. And so they're having to go around it, But you look at when we got in there, you could see that, man, they're probably using that as like a bedding area, around that terrain feature, just the way it sets up. So we just started hitting. The trails were coming off the steepest part of that face, the rockiest, steepest part. That when I initially walked in there, I thought, "There's no way a deer is coming off of that," because it was very open.
It's open, yeah.
Yeah, it was very open. But once you got past that, like it looked open, like you can see 150 yards. Once you got to that 150 yards, it wasn't open anymore. It was a rock field. Canopy lowered,
30 yards.
Yeah,
right.
30 yards was a long. If you could see 30 yards, you were doing really, really well. And it did not look like that from the ground, from where we were walking in. So once you got up in there, past that initial like open area, it just turned into just trails coming straight down that ridge.
Yeah.
And
just
so,
like you Andrew touched on earlier, the network of trails around here, just with the deer density. I mean, we were pretty impressed.
Yeah, definitely.
Even especially coming around those terrain features, you definitely wasn't hard to find what trails that were being used, especially in and amongst those rock faces.
Yeah, exactly. And I expected them to kind of be using like those little drainages and things like that, but a lot of those were just too choked full of rock or blowdown or something. They were just using the openings in the rock to weave themselves around, because that's the only place they had to move. So it's when you come into a place like this has really unique terrain. really unique, not just terrain features, but terrain on the ground. Sometimes it's that generates the movement, and not the big terrain, not the saddle, not the little drainage, not the bluff gap, things like that. Sometimes it's just that little minute, hey, this is a 450 yard wide boulder field, basically on the side of a bluff, that they're just having to work their way around because they don't want to go anywhere else. It's the easiest way, it's the easiest path of least resistance to where they're wanting to go. And I think that's what we missed by seeing it, hunting it one day, seeing deer, and then not going back.
Yeah.
And that's my fault.
Seth?
No, I was just going to say, just to back it up a little bit from my perspective, I think it was interesting to see the way Shane kind of broke it down we kind of went there with a macro perspective, and then trying to find, and then he was also able to identify some little habitat features, and then some other more unique features, such as bends in the road or Ys in the road, things like that you may be somewhat overlooked. But definitely, I think Shane's ability to look at things from and I've heard Andrew use that term before, just a landscape level, a landscape from a really, really big perspective, and then start breaking it down from there for just the current conditions, and then even the changing conditions, because we did have some changing conditions when we went in there. We kind of made some assumptions based off of that, but went in there looking for, like you said, the earliest buck sign is kind of being laid down right now, just on a day-to-day basis even.
Yeah.
And that's what we went in there to find. But going in there and verifying some of the habitat that looked good, and started finding some sign, and worked our way pretty close to where we thought a buck might be, and then we actually kind of did an about face and backed out from that spot, and we stopped and talked about that, where to work it back from there, and that's kind of where we made some interpretations on the wind, like you touched on, assuming that they would be doing some things based on the wind. But then when we started working around that feature, and we found some little further, we weren't sure that they were going to be up there on the mountain at first, because it was so open. But once we got up there and you start trying to traverse that terrain face, it was pretty rough. And then we got up and we found some really fresh sign. And then we were standing there trying to combine this fresh sign with where it goes next, either sort of a side hill motion or further up, and then 10 yards away, a fee tree. Big fee tree. I think that was a big key to that too.
We found that rub.
It was white oaks.
We found that rub. We found a rub, fresh rub, and I'm like, and it's in a location. I'm like, why is he rubbing that? Like, it was on a trail that was coming straight down, and the rub didn't face with the path of the trail. Like, it was off. It was perpendicular to it, and I'm like, why would he rub that? Like, that's what I was sitting there. Why did he rub that side of that face? And you could see just a little faint trail, like just a few punch marks going directly to my left. And I just kind of walked that, and like I said, 10 yards, and there was a feed tree that was raining white oaks that we hadn't found anything like that prior to that. And right above it was just a trail coming right to it. So
not a lot of scat or anything per se, but a lot of punch holes, a lot of turned over. Turned over lead, and that's basically where we decided to set up the first time.
It's almost like that buck walked up to their side hill, knew that white oak would probably be dropping, and went to that trail and marked it, and then probably went back up. That's my thinking.
Now, also with this hunt, I want to get into this hunt, because this hunt, the set was really interesting. The footage is pretty interesting as well. But before we kind of just break down that hunt, Shane, I want you to discuss or explain the whole idea with like the bucks using wind to their advantage, like when it comes to like walking in with the wind or a quartering wind or a crosswind, compared to what you're seeing on trail camera back home. Like you told us this last night or 2 nights ago about the whole idea that in the summer they do one thing, but come hunting season they completely change.
Because I see it on where I've ran all these trail cameras is during the summer they don't care about the wind at all. And really, they don't care about it until that initial, like, I wouldn't say it's even hard horn. Like, they'll go hard horn and still not even pay attention to the wind. They'll go walking with the wind. But as soon as it's physiological, it's got to have something to do with the daylight periods, something like that, because it's like a switch, and it's not like gradually. It's like overnight. and their movement completely switches. And we talked about it. It's like they're there one day using this like regularly, and it's the next day they are nowhere near. It's like you just if you hadn't predicted it, you're like, where in the world did they go? And that's when they start caring about wind, and it's like it just clicks in their brain, and they do it. And I've talked to y'all about it too. It's like I said, it is not like, oh, he's kind of moving off of this pattern. It's like, I moved off this pattern. I'm completely changed. I'm done with this. Summer's over. It's time to go, boys. And it's like that they do it. And I've had so many cameras that when I first started doing it, and you're getting him consistently, and it's like he just disappears. He vanished in the thin air. And that's when they start caring about that wind, and that's when they're crosswinding. And if you learn to move your cameras around, you learn to hunt off of that, you can notice it, and it's just an immediate change, and it's like it clicks overnight. And so right now we're just in that period where they just don't care about wind at all. Like they might, if they knew a hunter was there or knew something spooked him, kind of like we talked about with yours, he probably did try to scent you at some point in time to figure it out. But he's not like moving this time of year thinking I've got to get that wind in my nose. They just feel safe right now,
Yeah. Now, can I go back to this hunt that we were talking about with the feature, kind of going up that boulder field and everything? How did y'all figure out the setup for that? Because the setup's very interesting, because I'm thinking you're going to climb a tree, and y'all came back to the house after what y'all had found, and you're like, no, we're going to go sit on the ground in there. We're going to go sit on the ground, sit up against some rocks. So what was the thought process behind that, and how y'all actually set up in that spot?
I think if we would have figured it out, we would have killed something. So
yeah.
But we did learn a lot from that first set. I mean, the deer basically, and one thing from my perspective is when we went in, we both talked about the overcast. We weren't so much worried about. We were pretty confident they were up there at a certain elevation, but so we went in relatively well. We made sure that we had the thermal in our favor, being an overcast and cloudy day. But we went up there and set up. But it was rugged enough that we felt like we could tuck into and the boulders and a couple of those little ditch drainage and there was a small little rock face there that just off of where the main trail was and a couple of those feed trees, and we just felt like when they come down they would have to split that rock face and potentially come right on top of us, which they kind of did. We were hoping they would use a little further trail. There was a trail behind us. Yeah. But that was just gnarly. We didn't expect them to use that, but they did come down.
Yeah, and that's what I was worried about. Yeah, and we talked about sitting in a saddle, like hanging. And I'm like, if we hang here, the way this sets up, the trails are coming down, and the only tree in there, like we picked it out, and I'm like, if I'm sitting here and hanging here, like I'm literally going to be shooting the deer. He's going to be like looking at me as he's coming down because I'm going to be
you couldn't get high enough to get an advantage on him.
If you were up high, it was completely open, and they would have seen you long before.
So our plan was to put ourselves in between, an impassable feature and have them work around us.
Yeah.
And then get a shot as they worked past us. And weren't looking back; they're kind of looking down at their destination.
Yeah, we're kind of using that back cover to kind of conceal ourselves and let them get, in front of me where we could see them and possibly get a shot. But
we were just too right. Would you say we were too right?
We were too right.
Too close.
Yeah. Yeah. When you have them come that close, it's...
And how close again?
I mean, I feel like I could have reached out with my arrow and poked that deer. Like it felt like that close. It probably wasn't that close, but it felt like that close, And
we by the time we heard them coming down the hill, they were... It was 10 seconds later, and he was there, and he was coming. He was coming to those oaks.
Yeah, he had nosed down right to that oak. That oak was like off to our left, maybe 15 yards. Yeah, and he come in at like 6 yards.
Little spike.
Yeah, and was like nose down. Like I looked up, I heard something snap. Heard the hooves hit the rocks, and I looked to my left, and he's just nose to the ground, like going right to it, and he just whipped around like, oh, there's something here that wasn't here yesterday.
Yep. And I was kind of set up perpendicular to him. I had a big rock face to my back, and he was kind of set up to a rock face where he was sitting on it, looking to his left, hoping to get a shot to his strong side there. And maybe he just didn't have enough
Yeah, there wasn't enough
back cover
to my head.
He bowed up to your shoulders, and but not enough cover to be that close.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked. I mean,
I still feel like I could have shot the deer. Like I think he would. Yeah, I mean, he offered several broadside opportunities. I feel like I could have, if we'd have been looking to kill that deer, we could have killed that deer.
Now, what else did y'all see? Like, what other deer kind of came off that day? Because y'all had a bigger rock face. That impassable feature was like a bigger rock face right behind you guys, uphill. And y'all had some other deer kind of pop out.
Yeah, they were a group of deer.
Yeah, my first instinct when we saw that spike was that spike didn't make that rub. So whatever he is, he's just the front runner and he's coming. This nicer deer, whatever he's going to be, is definitely on his way down the hill. So we were just trying to hold out there. But when that spike just finally decided that he'd had enough, when he busted out of there, the woods just blew up. There was at least 4, could have been 5 deer, a little fawn just held it right over my back shoulder.
We had a fawn
down the hill.
We had a fawn. See, that rock split, and I feel like that group of deer were going down, and of course they were going down. That's the direction But I feel like when they got there to a certain point, they weren't all on that same trail. I think they were all just kind of filtering down, and so when he was here to our left, there was a fawn I think that had worked himself behind us. Kind of to our right and behind, like out of our field of view. Like we're both looking back at this deer, thinking he's going to work on past, and then maybe there'll be another buck or something behind him. And the fawn was to our right and a little bit down. And soon as she blew, that's when he said, "I've had enough." She blew and took off down the hill, and that's when he bounded out. And then another deer behind us started blowing, and I looked up there, and there's a basket rack 8 just sitting up on the rocks just above us that's still in velvet. That's maybe 30 yards behind us, sitting on that big rock, like up on top of it. And we just, that he bolted out and went back up. And then I think another deer.
Yeah, I think there was another doe.
There was another doe or something that was kind of to the left of that smaller buck. But we never saw her. We just heard her blowing like she went down the hill.
So I just thought it was interesting that dynamic of that group being together.
Yeah, it was a weird dynamic group. Yeah,
it was just kind of odd.
Yeah, and then 2 minutes later, another little fawn came down the hill, and basically got almost the same point that buck was there. She got a little further past him, and then she just whipped her head around and basically was like, "I already heard y'all blowing down here. I'm gonna blow down here too," and took off.
What other wildlife y'all see on that hunt?
Yeah, that was post snake.
Yeah, this all happened after the snakes and the rats.
The snake mice chase that was going on around in between.
Yeah,
Shane's sitting over there, and he gets my attention. I guess you reach over to grab your phone and just picked up a snake along with it.
First it was the rat. It was the little mice came through because they had to lay down the scent for that snake. Yeah. First those little mice, because they climbed all over you. They went under my back. Like I'm just sitting there and like I hear something rustling. And I'm like, I thought first off I thought it was armadillo. Like there's armadillos but it was just little mice, and they came right under my back, right to him. And then another one piled off right to my right, and they both took off down the hill. And not 15 minutes later, I reached over to grab my. No, that wasn't when I grabbed my phone. Oh, yes, it was. Yeah. I reached over and I'm not looking. I just reach over and know my phone's there, and I grabbed and I'm like, this is a weird texture, and there's a snake. There was a snake laying on my phone, and I'm like, I picked it up like I had drop it
Well, and he takes this little dead limb, and he flings it down down the hill a good
it kept
10,
coming
12
back.
yards.
It's like I had enough. I'm coming back.
Okay, well, at least we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then not a half hour later,
he's
I'm watching him. He looks at me and said, "Is that damn snake?"
It was back, at my foot, and then I let him because I'm like, he's not gonna crawl at my leg, I'm not letting that happen. And he just but I said, I'm not gonna get up and get this thing off of me. So I just let him crawl up, and I had that little limb again. I ooh, I made sure I got him way down the hill this time. You're gonna work for it, boy, if you come up here this time.
Dude, he was hunting, man. He was doing what y'all were doing.
Yeah, he was after them little mice.
There's a black rat snake or something.
Black rat snake. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's too funny, man.
Dude, if I could reach down and grab a snake, I mean. That would.
Yeah. I mean, it's different if you I've like picked up snakes before.
Oh yeah.
But when you don't
know, that's what I'm saying.
When you're not trying to pick up a snake.
when you're not trying to pick up a snake, it's what kind of snake could this be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, especially in timber rattlesnake country that we're in.
Yeah.
No, this place screams timber rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little gentleman who talked to us when we first got here, he said he's killed 11 this year, so.
Yeah.
Seen 11, killed 11, something like that. So he gave us a fair warning. He made a point to come back up here and individually warn us about the snakes. So
Yeah. So that first hunt, man, seems like it went really, really good. Like y'all found the sign, y'all found the deer, like you saw all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
And then the day after that, we haven't really been hunting mornings here just because of like how early it is, and we're so unfamiliar with the place. We're like, hey, instead of setting up blind before daylight, let's wake up at daylight, eat breakfast, drink coffee, strategize, and then go out and basically just kind of spend the rest of the day, scouting, hunting, whatever. So day 2, y'all ended up bouncing to a different area. So what was kind of the thought process and everything going into that, and then how did it turn out?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember exactly what made us go.
Well, we were coming back from scouting off of that major hub system that you had been looking at since we got here.
Yeah,
and then we were kind of scouting one of those distant micro hubs, drainages.
Yeah.
Off of that, so we scouted that in the morning, and then which turned out really good. I found I got to see my first pretty intense bear sign, evidently.
Yeah.
So that was really. I mean, it looked like that little tree took a lightning strike.
But I can't remember what made us go into that area because it's kind of like
one?
just the first corn trip. No, not the one not the let's kill ourselves in here.
Well,
the one let's go in here and let's just see what's in here.
We scouted that
corn. We walked all the way through that corn. Yeah, I wanted to go back to that CRP field. Yeah.
We found that unkillable deer back there.
Yeah, we located back months ago. You'd sent me the pin, and I'm like, that hub looks really good. And so me and you had talked about it, and there was a CRP field way over in the corner over there. And so I did some investigating on the property around it and found out that that's like a private hunting club. I'm like, there's got to be a big deer on that, And so I told him, I'm like, we're going to go in there. We got, I mean, that's what I said. We got nothing to lose. I'm not going over and hunt that other place until this afternoon. So we'll at least look in here. And we walked through 16 miles of corn that morning, but it was really good walking. Like we didn't have any problems.
No, that was
a really productive trip, and that's where I'll be in a few months, or a month from now.
Yeah, that place.
Yeah, we found some intense bear sign though in there, and it's a terrain feature, a huge turkey foot hub, and it's at the head of it. It's like one of the smaller drainages that come off of it. We found some hunter sign in there, but not much, and I don't believe anybody had been in there where we were.
No.
I think where we found that camera is about as far as they go. Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything else that led me to believe that, hey, hunters have pushed up in here and they're doing anything.
And again, that's what I referred to earlier, seeing how Shane was breaking down this huge, map landscape feature, and then looking around it to see how we could access certain areas of it based on conditions, and then looking to see which ones had the best habitat features around it, whether that be crops, row crops, CRP, some more natural areas. You did even went a step further just to investigate some of the private around it, and decided that this right here, if we're going to find a good buck, it could be somewhere in this area. And
we walked up on a bed right off the edge of that CRP. Mm-hmm. On the side that I figured there would be a bed on, the way the wind direction had been going, and I literally think we walked up on that bed because the grass was still coming up out of that bed.
Like the deer was already
there was trails. We walked in on a single trail. But when you got to the bed, there was 3 trails, exit trails, entrance trails coming off of that bed
in different directions. And prior to that, we found that bed down in that hole. Like we found a bed kind of in that corn.
That's what I said. The unkillable buck.
The unkillable buck, because there's no way you can kill that deer if he's in that bed. I mean, when you're walking in there and you look at it and you see that bed in that type of habitat, grass, and where it is, there's no grass.
No.
Like he had laid there probably the entire summer.
Browsing.
The browse
super,
line
super
around
diverse.
it was just everything's this high, and where he's at is like browse down to this high.
Yeah, just a ton of honeysuckle. We even saw some persimmons in there loaded. Probably not dropping yet, but just a ton of sumac. It was you could stay in there all day.
And the problem was we assumed for that afternoon that where we were going to go was not going to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd have known it looked like that, we never would have. We never would have went and did what we thought we were going to do that afternoon. But yeah, we found that bed. We found that bed up on the corner of that CRP, and in there was that's like a big hub system. It doesn't look like it from the topo. Like if you look at it on topo, it doesn't look like it has 40 foot or 50 foot of elevation drop in there, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
It did. Like if you're reading the contour lines, it's only like 15 feet. But when we got in there, it was more like 30 feet in the shallowest areas, and where it said 30 feet, it was like 60 feet of elevation drop. So the topos did not tell the story in there. Mm-hmm. And then there was a lot of really pretty timber, like beautiful woods, and just absolute crazy nasty. And right in that crazy nasty was where all the trails were we're going right to it.
A lot of rut sign.
Yeah, a lot
of old rut sign.
Yeah.
But nothing real fresh. I mean, we found sparse feeding.
Yeah.
Feeding sign and stuff like that. And then we worked up to the CRP where we found that bed. We found a lot of the bear sign. And then we just kind of worked our way out of there. I mean, that was a whole
the bear sign
endeavor in itself. But
the bear sign was impressive.
It was what we found when we were actually on the way out of there that led to us almost dying down there.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Because what happened is when we were walking out and Shane actually cut some tracks on that rocky road.
Yeah.
Late in the day, some really good tracks. Two sets of tracks, looked like a bigger buck and probably his little partner. And so we sat there and we kind of just convinced ourselves we were smart. And we had kind of interpreted the movement that those bucks
were.
Like,
oh, I bet he's doing this. I bet he, So we talked ourselves out of going where we had seen deer before and where we already had a plan to then go try to commit suicide in the middle of a cornfield. Or bleed out in the middle of a cornfield. I guess you could say.
We were pretty sure where they were coming out of the corn, and then where they were going into the bigger woods and possibly down to some soybean fields. So I mean, and it was just a matter of how far off this road. Where did they come from? Did they come from some water features? Did they come from a drainage? So
we'd found all that older sign way back over in that CRP field, and so I thought, well, he's probably. And there was feed sign in there. And there wasn't a lot of doe. I didn't see a lot of sign that there was a lot of does in there. I think.
Well, and it was just we kind of, it's not to draw it out, but that was kind of what led us up to that point. We just cut some tracks, and again, fresh tracks.
We figured those tracks were done after that rain, and we'd come in. It rained that Tuesday night, and I'm like, well, those had to have been done since then. So we just put two and two together. I said, well, maybe he's back there bedding somewhere. They're bedding back on that back CRP, which I still think they are. Mm-hmm. I think the plan was correct.
So felt like we had a direction of travel at least, and so for me it was like to see Shane put a lot of emphasis on tracks. Fresh tracks and track sign this time of year. Like you said, buck sign being hard to come by. We felt like that was worth trying to be aggressive and make a play on, as ambitious as it might be.
So we decided that we would try to cut the distance and figure those bucks were probably, if they were going to use it and go down to the ag that's lower, which looked like they were the tracks, that they were probably transitioning and staging halfway between. That's what I figured. Is they're probably going there bedding in that CRP on the other side of the big corn, and sometime during the middle of the day getting up using those like little wood. They're like wood breaks between the branches and things like that between the corn, and working their way up a little bit closer to to the road where all the pressure was coming from, but all the pressure on the road was going the opposite direction. So I figured they were getting close enough to that road that once they heard the car door slam at night, that was like their signal to get up out of their bed and go down to the soybean fields basically below them, the bean fields below them. And so we just devised a plan to just dive right in and hunt right in the middle of all that. Like we wanted to get, we thought, we sat here and talked to Jacob, like, I wonder what that looks like. We pulled up Google Earth. We pulled up every single thing to look and see, man, that looks like I could probably get right here and shoot across that little neck in that little oxbow. And if a buck is coming through that little woodlot, I'm going to get him.
Yep.
Which was also really cool. We went from hunting Rocky Mountainside to crop fields.
To crop fields, so, like that, you know.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a super diverse area for sure.
Yeah.
But, looking at the map, we kind of made some assumptions that if they were bedded around some water, out on the points of some water. And so we kind of devised a plan how we were going to circumvent that, do a little scouting on a little spot on the way, and work our way down a corn row.
Yeah.
At least the best we could figure out to get all the way to that point.
And by the way, it's a great looking spot. Like once y'all got back from that scout trip, that scouting trip that morning, started talking about it, I'm like, dude, that does look really good. And like, because I've seen deer use that kind of habitat in other states that we've hunted, where it feels like unless you get in there super tight to them, like you'll never see those deer unless it's after dark.
Yeah. No, I mean, we saw sign in there, you know, like really a lot of sign like down in there. And you can tell they're not bothered in there. Nobody's as dumb as we are.
No.
You know, to get down in there, you know.
Well, like I said,
other than those the picnic people.
Well, we're gonna get to that.
Other than them.
They were ripping lips down there.
But
well, I mean, it started off. It was a little rough getting in there, but once we got down to that first little, the end of that drain or that drainage that kind of in between area, we didn't know if we were gonna have to cross through water or if it was just and turned off. It was just real low and muddy. A lot of tracks going both ways, buck tracks, but quite a few tracks actually going, still further back into the crop.
By the time we had found that
ton of rubs in there.
A ton of rubs, a ton of those tracks. By the time we'd found that, I think I'd lost a pint of blood at that point in time. Because he was following me, and it was, there was enough briars in there, and I don't know what else that I'm surprised I had pants on at that time. Like, it was that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about the plan about getting in there, because y'all were trying to cross through like this buffer strip of really. It looked fairly thick, but we look on the map like you probably could just like slip through that stuff.
Yeah, that's what we thought. Yeah. That's what we thought. It was just we're just gonna slip right. That looks grassy. That looks like we could just walk on top of that like carpet.
Yeah. And it took us 45 minutes to go 18 yards.
There's a lot of doing this right here.
That's what I told him.
I walked 18 miles, and I think I went 25 yards.
Well, I think I even told you at one point that you might have to just
I did that a lot. Like it was just
military.
I finally started using my bow as a hatchet or as a machete. Like that's literally what you saw me. Yeah, I can buy another one, but I got to get through here.
It's like walking through a bunch of razor wire, right?
Oh yeah. That was one of the things I said. That dude that escaped from Pennsylvania prison, just put that around his prison. He ain't going out. He's not getting out of that. That is awful. Like I'm telling you, yeah.
Well, and we thought that might be the end of it. We're like, well, okay, we got here. We're still a good ways away from where we want to be. We're good to go, but it kind of got worse.
Because then I had to crawl under that. I don't know what that thing was. That tree that took my back out. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah,
We at one point we were both on our hands and knees, trying to get through, and even the stuff leading out into the corn was just bad.
Bad, yeah, it was rough.
But at least,
when we broke out of that, I told him, I said they owe me royalties on this because what we just went through to get some corn footage, like we deserve a pay raise.
So we finally emerge on that other side. I'm still crawling on my hands and knees through. You pop up, and there's three deer standing on a little buffer strip out there in the middle of the corn, kind of on this little high spot.
Yeah, which is where we kind of wanted to go.
Yeah, because that was it was really kind of a hub, and it didn't look like very dramatic on the map, but there was a lot going on there. Three deer standing up there.
Yeah.
Looking like, what the hell are these idiots doing?
I've never seen anybody in here.
Yeah.
You know, like, what is that? You know.
So we. I mean, to me, we were still in the game.
Oh,
kind of from that point, and then we worked up to that. Kind of that little feature on top of the hill.
Because it was like one really bad strip of just awful. Like, I don't want to ever do that again in my life. Then a lot of really good sign. Then another longer strip of I don't ever want to do that again the rest of my life. You know. And then it was like, so this is nice. Like, we got to that. I mean, there was a ton of beds in all. Like, that just goes to show you. You know, that's what keeps people out, because nobody, like I said, you could tell there had not been anybody in that, and I told you that. There's nobody doing this. Like, nobody's pushing in here to do this because
we thought we were being creative.
Yeah, we thought we were being creative, and we found a lot of sign. You know, like that's why there's deer in there.
They were in there.
They were in there because there was beds all in that stuff, and it's just nasty. Like, I don't know, those prickle bushes, sawbriars. Every briar known to man, was in there. But there was just beds all in that. And when we popped out the other side and got to that by the time we got to that island in the corn, I was like, I told you. No.
Well, so
how are we gonna get?
We started
somewhere,
re-strategizing. Yeah. We were still looking at the point, but we kind of decided we were just going to burn it. And so Shane's standing there, and we're recreating this whole strategy on how we're going to work toward this point or dip down and then work, because the wind was real sketchy up there too. That was a bit. That was one of the big issues.
That was the thing that changed our mind. When we got up there on top of that, the wind was like 5 miles an hour, 5 different directions. Felt like it was just in your face, in your back, to your side, just whipping back and forth. It was just moving, just every which way by that point in time. So we just everything was going. The most dominant wind was going right to where we wanted to be.
Yeah,
that's basically it. To where we had in our plan in our mind, that's where we're going to be, which probably would have been okay. Like, it's going out into that pond. There's so I felt like we were okay at that point in time. It was just I'm rethinking being able to shoot through that.
Right.
And so now it's like, where can I go to get a shot off?
So we decided we may have to just burn that point and work our way around, and maybe we'll jump something that doesn't, and being in that tight, maybe it'll kind of stand on the trail and pose for us for a minute. But Shane's that we devised this whole plan on how we're going to navigate this and get around to that last feature where we ended up sitting for 4 minutes. And, but we with the wind's doing this, we're going to work on, we'll see this on this side, this, and I'm like, okay, well, okay, we've got a plan. And he said, we're going to do that because I am not going back that way. This puts us closest to the road because I'm not going back.
I said we got to devise a plan to get close to that road, because if I'm bleeding out, I want to be able to easy access for the rescue squad to get me, at that point in time. And plus, what we just came through was something I wouldn't put any enemy of mine through ever.
So we did work our way around at that point. Found a ton of persimmons, just low-hanging persimmons.
I found out bottle brush can get thick enough that you'll want to cuss out your mama. It literally will get thick enough that you will just want to. Yeah, it's bad. Like, that was a bad 15 acres of bottle brush that is just like that. There's a reason there was no deer trails in that, because they couldn't traverse it either.
Yeah.
It was literally just whatever could slip under it,
So we jumped one doe near the point that we were kind of looked at originally, and we just kind of worked our way around there. Then we finally got to the spot where we thought we wanted to end up, and we kind of said we kind of just this end. We're hoping to catch some movement off of a bigger feature coming to that corn, maybe working their way out like we thought, and then maybe going over the mountain down the beans. So we sit down. We're just sitting on the ground. And we're kind of looking around, wondering what if we're sitting on trail. There's not really any feed trees, and it wasn't a whole lot going on. And after about 4 minutes,
it didn't take that long. Like, we heard the barbecue going on.
I forgot about the family picnic.
The family picnic.
So you guys have just crawled through literal hell.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you hear a child's voice.
Yeah. Well, at first he thought it was a loon.
Yeah, I mean, it was just we thought it was birds.
Yeah. It wasn't birds. Yeah.
So
and I was like, I heard, Daddy, it's hung up. Mm-hmm. What do I do? And I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah, the confidence wasn't shot up to that point.
Yeah.
It was getting very
I'm sitting
low.
there thinking, what am I thinking?
So listen, I'm in the learning process here. I'm sitting here going, okay. Yeah. I'm like,
he's learning what an idiot does.
I don't want to, I'm trying not to influence things going on, but I'm thinking in my mind, how confident are we, sitting here? I was like, I know it's the end of the day, but we probably had a good hour before. Last night,
we could have,
And Shane, and it's like Shane, he just looks over and he said, I don't know what the hell we're doing.
That's it. That was it. Like I said, I have zero
confidence in what we're doing right now.
I
just kind of nice. Let's just go.
Yeah. So pack it up. Let's go.
And the little kids were the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, the little kids were like that and thinking, there ain't nothing coming through here but an armadillo. Like literally. And that it's funny as heck to think about, I mean, it's funny to think, how in the world did them kids get in there? Like I told him, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess the parents just got out and threw them into the lake.
Tossed them over the corn.
Like we've got to where we want to fish. Well, how are we going to fish? Just get in the lake, because I don't know how they got there. I mean, otherwise those kids have been tortured beyond belief, and that's like, this is like their escape. Is to go out and walk through that.
Oh my god,
that was awful.
They were suited up head to toe with brier bibs, brier jacket, whatever.
They were dressed. I'm cussing y'all for not having those sawbuck pants when I was coming through that, because I needed those like all over.
Need some of those brier bibs, man.
Yeah,
and that was that whole pond, like around that pond.
Oh yeah.
When you got back, God, dude, I wish we had it on. It was so funny because you got back and you're like, it's 25 yards. It's just. You could put it around a prison.
You could. Yeah. They need to come up.
I had blood in the folds of my elbows and around.
I mean, look
my
at my
wrist.
legs. I mean,
you got
you're covered. Yeah.
Well, you got back and you took your boots off and your feet were bloody.
Oh yeah, I've got briar marks on my feet.
And you had snake boots on, and your feet were bleeding.
Like I have scratches up where the snake boots are at. Like it got everywhere. Like I've never seen briars like that. I pulled off my boot and a corn cob rolled out. Like, what's this happening? It's just bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was that's one for the ages. Like when we're dead in the ground and they're writing our tombstone, they're going to pay. They survived the corn maze.
Oh my God! Y'all forever have a bond now.
Yeah, we do.
Bonded in suffering.
Yeah. We're joined at the hip now, because that was rough.
So we just rode the roads.
Yeah. At that point in time, we just started hunting hunters.
Getting close
that goes
to the
to show
weekend.
you like what I mean. And we talked about it too. Is not hunting mediocre side. It's like when you get to a place and you think, well, it's great, like it's got so much promise, and you get there is no need in sitting somewhere that you don't feel confident in, because it kills your psyche. At the time we got to that point in time, it's like at that point in time, if we'd have kept sitting there, we would have probably dreaded any other hunt from that point on. If we'd have just kept sitting there and finished that out, it's just better to cut your losses, and move on.
Because after that, we did have because I had some questions just about confidence in your setups and what that means, and I think that's a big difference for what goes into how you set up and your sits. That goes a long way in being able to execute in those final moments. It just means you're engaged and you're focused. Because I mean,
and you got to look at things like that, like that wasn't it, while we were going through it. It was painful, and really, but you almost got to do it like kind of like we done it and look at it as something entertaining.
Speaking of entertainment, how'd your clothes look when y'all got back?
Oh, those pants are in the trash. Yeah, I mean, they're gone. Yeah, they look like you just razor wired them to pieces.
Wildcat got a hold of you.
Wildcat. Yeah, cougar. One of these Georgia cougars, not the kind that you'd want to get a hold of. But
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh Lord!
Yeah, I'll say this because I think we're going to talk about my version of this hunt and then Andrew's version on next week's breakdown episode.
Yeah.
But
we're going to get kicked out of this Airbnb.
The same thing about like not setting a mediocre sign. Me and Nate, when we jumped that real big buck and found some great sign, we did 2.5 miles that afternoon going back into the spot before we finally set up. And we set up on something that was okay. Thought there was a chance, but it didn't pay out. But it's like we almost just walked out of, where there's definitely bucks at into stuff that like there was feeding areas, wild stuff dropping, but it wasn't great. But yeah, I mean that's the thing about, I think we all have a takeaway from is keep walking until you find something that is 100% like there's an opportunity here. Don't sit up on something that was just like, I'm tired, I'm just going to sit here and we're just going to see what plays out, or this is like okay, and just it's better just to keep walking until, first off, while you're walking, you're also scouting.
Yeah.
And if you only have a few days to hunt, you're better off doing that than just randomly go sit in a spot and just hoping and praying that you see a deer, let alone if you're trying to find a buck. So yeah, I mean that's another huge takeaway from this trip.
And the psyche part, that's really interesting. That's actually a really good point. Is like if you sit there and you've been there for like an hour and you're like, man, I ain't gonna see anything. Like if you keep sitting there, like you're just wanting the hunt to be over.
Your brain is not you're not, that's what I told him. It's better to just come back and get rested for tomorrow, because if you sit there, you're just not only you're just wasting time, and you're beating your psyche, like you said, you're just reinserting bad imagery in your brain that nothing is going to work out right. And so the next time you're out there, you're thinking the same thing again subconsciously.
We talked a lot about that on the way out of there from a more of an unbeaten perspective. Because how important that is. Not as defeated as we were, but in normal situations, how much confidence in your setup is important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I love that, because confidence is everything.
It is.
Heading in there and knowing that you're in the right spot and acting with confidence. And we talk about that all the time with all the different people that we have on, like yourself included, versus Michael Perry versus Drew Atkinson versus Robert Carter, like all these different guests that we've had on, and y'all all do stuff totally different, and y'all all have totally different opinions on stuff. But at the end of the day, like, you're all confident in what you do. Like, you're confident in what you do, and I think that's why you're successful, and I think that's why those other people are successful too, because you're doing things right. Like if you really think that you're going to go kill a buck, like you're going to dial your setup, you're going to make sure you're positioned right, you're going to make sure you access right. If you kill your psyche and you're just like, well, I'm just going to go, I need to get in a freaking tree, so I can hunt. Well, then you're not going to do all that. You're going to clank your platform like Jacob did last night. Ruin their spot.
Thanks, Jacob.
And we, oh my God, we'll have to talk about that next week.
Accessed it so perfectly.
I'm talking about, we snuck in there. I don't think I've ever been that stealthy in the woods. And
I was impressed.
Yeah. And we got set up, and
he flung what was it, a cam buckle?
It was
tether.
I was hanging Seth's tether, and I didn't realize how, dude, like Nate, you were talking about, like, again, Nate doesn't have a mic, but your linesman belt's like a shorter linesman belt. Seth's is like a 12-foot long freaking tether.
It's not 8mm either.
No, and dude, I'm like, I didn't realize how long it was. So he hung his platform, and I go to sling like his tether around to help like get him tethered into the tree because he was in a weird angle. And dude, I freaking smack his platform with that carabiner in his rope, man. And we got in so quiet. Stealthy. Like it just hurt. I was so happy with us getting the tree like so quietly. And I did that, and it was like calm, and it goes, ding! It was like someone walked in your house when you're sleeping. Like, you never heard him get in the house, and all of a sudden they slam two pots of pans together. And you're like, whoa, like, what was that, dude? Like, of course nothing was probably going to come if it was bedded within 150 yards.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, dude. And it was like, it sounded like it echoed. Like, it just like went down the mountain, and I'm like, well, let's see if this pans out. And no, we didn't see a freaking deer. So.
Yeah.
But, I just one last time. It's because what I wanted to get from Shane in that moment when we decided to bail was somebody with your experience and and your success was us just screwing that up that bad. If you were okay with that, if that was because I'm used to screwing up, and the conversation we had was that you screw up just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, gotcha.
But you stay aggressive.
Yeah.
And so that was a confirmation for me that guys that have success, they go through the same struggles as most of us. And we talked about how you still have to make conscious decisions to keep yourself from either overthinking or being overly aggressive. You said that's one of your things. So that was pretty important to me in the end, to knowing that it's okay to screw up. We're all going to keep screwing up. But
the minute you stop screwing up, it's over for you. As far as learning anything, if you think you're not going to screw up, because that's when you're done. If you think you can't. Because
I think I even asked you as low as we were feeling. I said, well, what if we were driving down the road here and we see a buck across the road right here? We going after him? He was like, we're going after him. Killed one of my biggest deer like that. And then he kind of told me that story, which was pretty cool. So
that's awesome, man.
Awesome. Y'all got any kind of final takeaways from this trip and the overall experience, and just some last impressions of it?
Man, I had a blast here. We hadn't taken anything. Still got a couple hours left, but I've had an absolute blast up here. I really, really appreciate y'all inviting me up. Like I said, my takeaway is it's tough hunting early season, especially when you're walking into new property. But it's tough for everybody that's doing that. So kudos to the guys that can get it done in that kind of situation. And it's definitely a learning experience for me, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. That's really what this I looked at this more of just like getting my feet wet, and getting to a position where now the next couple weeks and get ready for the season to really start rolling.
Seth, what about you?
Yeah, some of the biggest questions I wanted to answer for myself was to how I would interpret sign compared to you guys and Shane along the way, and how I may have done things different. And that kind of gave me an idea on my aggressive level compared to some others. But some of the key things were, what is good sign going to look like, compared to back home?
Yeah.
What does good sign look like in a place where elevation is a big key, terrain is a big key. The amount of scouting, the amount of preparation and that goes into it, because you hear a lot about scout hunt, and then. I always wonder if a lot of these guys, and it was the same thing last year in Kentucky for me, if these guys actually, that take that approach, actually follow through and do that sometimes, and that was certainly confirmed for me. But and then again, it was that learning what was good sign.
Yeah.
And that's
and man,
and I appreciate the opportunity to come up here for sure. It was definitely a privilege, and I learned so much being here.
Yeah.
So
this guy's not only. You can tell he's a sponge, but he's just so helpful, like out there. Not just but just it's really good when you're working with somebody that you can have a good rapport with, that's can get into your mindset. So kudos to Seth for making it really, really awesome. For me.
Thank you. I was thinking you were going to hate me by the end of this.
No, man. I told you I miss you. I miss you.
I didn't tell you.
I'm gonna go home and wish I had him scouting with me.
Yeah, Seth, you can come hunt Alabama during our December-January rut.
Yeah, dude. Get you a tag.
Yeah.
Get Seth in front of the camera. Yep. Let's go.
So yeah, it was a really cool experience, and I think we had some success. So the setup is another big question that's usually in my bank to get answered, and we kind of answered that we were real close, but setups were real important. Saw that with Jacob last night as well, the way we set up for the wind and thermals, and the way we set up for what he had pre-scouted. So just some of those key questions, as usual. It's pretty consistent no matter where you go.
Yeah, and I think one of the early hunts like this really help you. Like for anybody that's thinking about doing something like this, do it. I've done it in the past, but not really anything quite like this, like hunting 4 or 5 days really, really early season back to back to back. It's usually like a hunt here or there. But if you can do what we done and get opportunity to do it, because what it's done for me now is gotten me ahead of the game. You know, like it's gotten me prepared. I've kind of we worked out some kinks, some things like that I know I got to work on. And when you roll in the season and you're trying to do that, and you've gotten a big deer that you're wanting to kill early, and you don't have those kinks worked out, things like this really help you.
Yeah.
And you can be successful doing it anyway. You know, like we could have had success here. So if you got an opportunity to do a hunt like this, do it, because it's going to benefit you in the long run. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. It's a great primer, for the rest of the season, man. Like, getting up the tree to, like, getting your mindset right, getting your gear dialed, like, every aspect. This is, especially, because in Alabama, I mean, we're, like, still a little less than a month out in Alabama. I mean, this is, like, a way early start for us. So, I'm excited, man. But I appreciate you guys coming up here. I was really looking forward to this hunt. I've done early season hunts like this in years past, and I've always struggled. Last year I ended up shooting a buck in Georgia, but that was on a place that I had hunted 2 years previously at the same time. And I still, it took, I think I killed him on, day 5. I mean, it's a struggle fest, man. But it makes you better. Like, to me, this is like a really, really, really good exercise in, true woodsmanship, because you are out here and you are straight up just reading sign and hunting your way into stuff. And, you got to be paying attention. You got to use your ears. You got to know, why things are the way they are. We're looking for persimmon trees. Now, for my years of experience, I can now look at the map and I know where a persimmon tree is going to be. And so I can go right to those spots and check those persimmon trees, as opposed to I just have to walk up and down this mountain until I bumble into one. Same thing with white oaks, kind of knowing where they like to grow, just woodsmanship like that shaves off potential days of scouting. We hit the ground on day 1, and because you have that woodsmanship experience, you can go right to those spots that are going to be good, check them, and then bounce to the next one, rather than just literally just wandering around till you find something. And so that's where the woodsmanship comes in, and it's good to kind of flex that muscle early, because now going into October in Alabama, going into the pre-rut, going into colder temperatures and just better hunting conditions, you're tuned up and you're ready to go. You're already warmed up for the season. So
I agree. I'm very excited now for Alabama season, because I'm going to take a lot that we learned and experienced here back home. Especially on the feed trees, buck bedding, everything like that, because I've got a couple spots that I found some big beds in the past that are in a lot more kind of higher elevation kind of areas in Alabama that's got really good feed trees around there. I'm going to try to key in on that. And I'll tell you another thing that was really helpful in this hunt, that it's a feature I've never even used, and Shane, you were kind of talking more about it, is on Onyx, the wide oak filter, where you can put on this filter. I think it's under trees and crop filters on Onyx, where you can select for white oaks or red oaks. And when you had the white oak filter on, how accurate it was, because you were talking about in some of these areas when you had it does it in squares, and if it shows on the map there's one square on this ridge line, you're walking into 1 or 2 white oaks almost every time.
Now like I said, when it's a big group of them on the map, it can get a little bit wonky. But if it's one block that's kind of separated from everything else, you can guarantee that's going to be a white oak. That's something you want to target.
So that's a huge feature. I've never really even used that feature in the past, and you kind of brought it while we were up here, and it seems pretty spot on with all the areas that we walked into and how it played out. So that was another real big takeaway from this hunt, and maybe be able to apply that kind of in Alabama and even some of these other hunts we're going to go on, and kind of key in specifically using those features, especially if you're going to an area that you don't really have a lot of past experience in, and you're just kind of going in there and be like, okay, if I'm going to do a scout trip, where's the areas that I really need to go and check, and having that on where I can go check specific spots where there's white oaks at, I think would quickly shorten the scouting trip, so you can hit these very high spots. Again, high spots on the map, not necessarily, not talking elevation, but high spots of high interest, and be able to kind of see whether or not this is something I'm going to keep focusing on, or if I'm going to shift to doing something else. So,
you hear a lot. Everybody, I mean, most of the guys, y'all, especially this summer, heard a lot of people. Michael Perry, I think it was the guy from Arkansas,
Jonathan Moreland.
Talking about isolated feed trees. So that especially Michael Perry talking about the isolated white oaks. I have used that where I'm going now. Going to be hunting this entire fall to do that with that feature on there. So that not to give away our secrets, but everybody can see it, you know. But to pick out those isolated ones, that feature on that is really, really good.
Absolutely.
So,
That's awesome.
Well, awesome. Well, appreciate you guys joining us, both Seth, Shane, and also Nate right here. Thank y'all for coming up. This has been a cool trip. It's been an awesome trip. A lot of learning curves, a lot of good experience. But this isn't the end of this. I think at some point we may try to come back up and hunt again. But appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Appreciate everybody watching the podcast. Again, this is a video version, so you can go watch this. Which if you're already made to the end of this podcast at this point. If you want to go see the video version and actually see Shane being a little more animated, definitely go check it out. But appreciate everybody watching, appreciate everybody listening, and guys, we'll catch you back here on next week's episode from the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. Y'all stay Southern.